Self-awareness. Self-awareness is the state in which a person is consciously paying attention to his or her mental space, knowing and observing what is going on in there. You may have noticed that we rarely pay attention to what is going on in that space, and are almost ignorant of it most of the time. The truth is that very few people are in the state of self-awareness. The majority of us are unaware and ignorant of the contents of our mental space and their activities. It is no exaggeration to say that we are even afraid to look at those contents and activities, and employ various kinds of tools or techniques to narcotize the mind to keep it unaware of its contents and real-time activities. That is why we created the unconscious mind in the first place, and desperately spend a huge amount of energy to keep it unopened in order to avoid directly looking at its contents in a bright light. Probably you have noticed that we are usually not interested in attentively and consciously staying observant of our mental space. Why is it so hard to maintain such an attentive state in real time? The actual time? People say that this is because we have hidden something there, which, for some rational or irrational reason, we hate or fear to look at up close with wide-open eyes. Perhaps deep down we know that thing is not scary and ugly, but we need to believe it is only because that way of looking at it provides fuel for our hate production machines, a hatred that is used to motivate almost all of our activities. What if all of this horrible game, from beginning to end, is just an illusory self-made dream, which some call the self? After the mind knows the trick behind this magic, would it still be difficult for it to stay consciously attentive of its inner space? Or would the mind's natural state be to be aware of everything, without any friction, conflict, or desperation to conceal anything? There are many valuable texts, some of which go back thousands of years, on the necessity of keeping the mind in an attentive state, or that clarify the reasons behind our lack of interest in maintaining such attentiveness. There is no need to repeat or discuss these arguments here. However, I would like to briefly mention a couple of issues in this regard. Being aware of thought streams is not an ethical necessity, but rather a rational one. Sound reasoning dictates that human beings should naturally be interested in what is going on in their minds, conscious and aware of this mental space. Furthermore, awareness is a must if you wish to understand the ideas in this book. How can you know the mind without observing its operation? You do realize that mental comprehensions cannot be transferred. That is, we cannot transmit our mental experiences to others. We can just create circumstances so that others can personally experience and comprehend the events. This is certainly not transferring knowledge to another mind, but creating an independent experience in another mind. For example, after I drink a glass of cold water, I cannot transfer my feeling about it to others. I can just provide them with a glass of cold water and ask them to drink it, so they can have their own feeling and understanding. What happens then is their own discovery, not my discovery transferred to them. No one can transfer his or her intuition and experience to you. It is simply impossible. Only you can be the explorer of your own discoveries. Therefore, in order to understand how your mind works, you have to observe your mental activities yourself. Even if every other human being has found the deepest knowledge and awareness about his or her mind and mental activities, he or she will have added nothing to your understanding of yourself. If everyone around you is the best driver ever, not an iota of driving skill will be added to you unless you sit behind the wheel to learn and practice driving for yourself. Reading hundreds of books about driving will not make you a good driver. Similarly, reading hundreds of books about mind and psyche will not make you a real psychologist or expert on self-knowledge unless you start to carefully observe your own mind and its activities with the utmost clarity. This is not an ethical agenda, but a simple logical conclusion, which fortunately, I doubt anyone denies. You might say it is obvious that no one but me can know my mental space, so why all these explanations and emphasis? As I mentioned before, it is because we are not only indifferent toward observing our mental activities, but we actively try to escape from observing them, worrying about the ramifications. Again, the gurus of self-knowledge have discussed this topic in great detail. Observation. Let me clarify what I mean by observation and what it means to observe the mind's activities and contents. To observe one's own mind does not mean to control it. The word observation is used here to mean passive witnessing of what goes on in the mental space at this moment. It does not mean making an active contribution to an interactive activity. We are used to examining ourself or the contents of our mind to change something in order to make it better. But that is not the kind of observation I am describing here and will actually ruin it. One may think of observation as similar to sitting in a movie theater and watching what is happening on the screen as it unfolds. This observation is an absolute and pure action of watching without doing or even wanting to do anything. Any active contribution in order to change anything will ruin the quality of this observation. It has to be nothing but watching. Ask yourself why this observation has to be free from any desire to keep things as they are now or to make them different from what they are now. This is simply because it is impossible to see something in real time as it is, and at the same time to try to change it from what it is. If we want to hide something from our sight, or if we want to change it to be different from what it is now, it simply means that we are not able or prepared to look at it yet. Don't you agree? This way of observing things is not easy, and on your path to self-knowledge, understanding what exactly it means will save huge amounts of your time and energy.